Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stoney Acres Gardening. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, something I haven't done for a while at least, and that is we're going to do a little bit of a garden tour. So it is the middle of September and the garden is starting to wind down, but I thought that I would take you guys through and show you how things are looking in the garden this time of the year. So one of the first things I want to do, we're out here in the front. You guys don't see me out front very often. I wanted to show you this fun experiment. So we have this big flower bed in our front yard that doesn't get a ton of sun, but we wanted to try and incorporate, along with the flowers, we wanted to put some food stuff in. And so one of the things we did is we built this trellis. There's a link up here if you want to see how to build it. And we were going to plant beans on it. We actually planted beans 3 different times, but we have a real problem with snails up here and we could not keep the snails off of those beans. So next year we're going to have to try some transplants or something like that the snails don't like quite as much. So we didn't get any beans growing on that this year, but we did have some pretty good success with this popcorn. And so I thought I would show that to you. So the variety is actually called Shaman's Blue. We got it from Honest Seed Company. We planted in hills and it looks really good. Did really well. Had several comments from neighbors and people that stopped by our house saying how cool it looked to have some popcorn up here in the front. Nice, big, tall, I mean, these are 10-foot tall plants, and it's produced really well. Each of the stalks has at least 2 ears on it that are currently kind of, you can see they're kind of just starting to get into the drying stage. So we'll have these sit for probably another 3 or 4 weeks, then we'll bring them in and let them do their final curing inside. So anyways, we were pretty excited about that, so I wanted to bring you out front here so that you could see that, how we're incorporating at least a little bit of food in our front flower bed as well. So thought that was pretty cool. Now let's head around to the side of the house and we'll check out the raised beds. Okay guys, so we're over now. This is on the west side of our house. This is our raised beds. So we have 4 raised beds that we grow in, and looking decent for this time of the year. We've got kale growing here. I'll do some close-ups. In fact, I'll just bring us closer. This is a greens bed that just got planted, and then this is kind of overspill for our squash. These are some fun planters that we got from Smart Pots. So it's their new raised bed, and I'm gonna bring you up close here. So this is one of those times where I just couldn't throw things away. So these pepper plants I actually grew specifically for a video course that I was doing. We were updating our seed starting course, but I grew these in the middle of the summer. They're you know, I just planted them about 2 weeks ago out here. I just couldn't throw them away. I didn't want to throw them away. So we had this raised bed from Smart Pots that came up empty in the kind of the cycle or rotation of things. And so we planted these peppers. They didn't get planted until about August 20th. Obviously there's not going to be much of any harvest this year, but what I'm going to do is this raised bed has handles on it, which is super nice. And so we're just going to carry this inside the garage when the frost comes, and we'll overwinter these in the garage and then bring them back out in the spring and see how they do that way. So anyways, kind of a fun experiment we're doing. Okay, so let's look closer at these beds. So this is all kale. This is our fall and winter kale. So here in the front, these have been in for about 2 months and we're just starting to harvest from them. Back here in the back, we have transplants underneath there that are just getting started. So they've been in for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So these will kind of fill in. We'll have early harvest from these and then later harvest in the winter from those. These 2 gargantuan kale plants have kind of just been hanging out. We've been slowly eating from them all summer long. This bed was just planted on Saturday. So this will be one of our fall lettuce beds. And so it just got planted on Saturday. We're not even really seeing anything coming up yet on that. So it's only been a couple of days. Here's our one of our 2 cattle panel trellises. This one is covered in squash. This is the first year that we have done spaghetti squash and acorn squash on this trellis. Normally on this side I do melons, and then we'll do pumpkins over here. But this year we decided to bring the spaghetti squash and the acorn squash over here because we've had such a problem with squash bugs the last few years. And it worked. We tricked the squash bugs. No squash bugs at all over here. which has been nice. But it hasn't grown super well. We've got, you know, if you kind of look, there's a little bit more than a half a dozen. There's maybe 8 or 10 spaghetti squash and 4 or 5 acorn squash. And then over here, the pumpkins, which always seem to do well on this trellis, we've got about a half a dozen pumpkins, these are sugar pie pumpkins. And you can see we're starting to get to the end of the season. We've got some powdery mildew coming along, but we're like 2 or 3 weeks away from our last frost. So at this point, I really don't care. I'm not going to worry about the powdery mildew. We do have a couple of pots of strawberries that have been producing all summer, looking well. There's another spaghetti squash right there. I have to show you this. I normally don't do this. I'm not one for letting volunteers grow, but when they grow in rocks, I'm just like, I don't have the heart to pull them out. So we've actually got a tomato. I did some composting here last year and kind of some setup, and I must have dropped seeds. We've got a tomato plant that came up that I just didn't have the heart to take out. And then this is some 4 o'clocks and marigolds all coming up in the rocks without water. So I just had to let them grow. And you can see over here we've got some hanging baskets that I've got over here in the shade that we just planted and are just we're starting to see some lettuce coming up in these. We're going to move these over and hang them. We're testing out the Smart Pot hanging basket liners, and they're looking good as well. So, but just getting started on those, and those will get hung up we're kind of waiting for the heat to break, and we're finally going to see a break in the heat this week. So I'll probably move those into a sunny spot and hang them a little bit later. So looking good. More strawberries right there. This bed, you can see, this is an experiment. So I've never done beets via transplant before. I've always just been taught that they don't do well, but Charles Dowding does it every year, and I finally just said, dang it, Charles, you know what? I'll try it. So we're trying, and these just went in on Saturday, so it's been 3 days. They're still suffering from a little bit of transplant shock, but I think they're probably going to do okay. And over here we've got some green onions as well. And then just so you know, this is our compost bin back here. So got one batch cooking. Here's some that just finished up. All right, so here we are in front of our fruit trees. We had a good year this year. You can see, let me go back here so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. This is our peach tree. It's a semi-dwarf peach tree, and it is looking pretty stressed because it had a big crop this year. But we just harvested the last of those 3 days ago, and it's going to kind of settle in for the fall and hopefully recover from a pretty big crop. Our apple trees did not do well this year, so we just didn't get any fruit set. We had some cold weather at the wrong time, and so this is our Fuji. No apples at all this year. We do have a very few Honey Crisps, maybe a dozen fruit total that we have growing. I don't know if you can see back in there. So apples, big disappointment this year, but sometimes that's just the way it goes with the apple trees. We had a really big crop last year, so I guess we'll have to live with nothing this year. All right, let's come over here. This is one of our attempts to kind of expand our garden a little bit more. So we're using some smart pots. Look at this one. This is a 100-gallon smart pot that they sent us. And I think this is a good idea. It's on this little cement pad that we have. But I think I chose the wrong crops. We tried to grow some warm season crops. We've got tomatoes and peppers. And this area, because of this wall, just doesn't get enough sun. The tomatoes did okay, but the peppers haven't done. You can see they look sick, and they've never done well. But the things that are thriving is kale, and we've got some herbs back here that are growing, mint right there. So the leafy greens are doing pretty good here. So I think next year all of these pots will be planted in leafy greens, and we'll see how they do. The tomatoes and peppers just didn't do well, and it's not the pot's fault. it's the fact that we just don't get enough sun in this area. So I think we'll try something different. You can see we're just getting some lettuce. I've replanted a lot of these pots. There's some Swiss chard right there that's just starting to come up. So a little chamomile coming up there, a few herbs. But overall, the stuff here just didn't do amazing. I mean, the sun sugar tomato did okay, but just not enough sun in this area. So we're gonna try something different next year in this spot. All right, this is kind of a broad view of the main garden so that you guys know we've got, and I can't get it all in the camera, unfortunately, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beds total. They're all 4 feet wide, 25 feet long. This bed doesn't get a lot of sun, and so we're pretty picky as what we plant there. All the other beds get pretty good sun, and then this end bed is our raspberries, and so I'll kind of go through and show you everything that we have going here. All right, first off, we have these containers that are just kind of tucked over here next to our water faucet. And they're recently replanted. The strawberries have been obviously there all year, but we just replanted these. You can see we've got some kale coming up in that one, little Swiss chard over here in this one, just some fall crops along with those strawberries. So that is that section. This is our raspberry / blackberry patch. And it is a big feature. We love raspberries, love, love, love. We love blackberries too, but we really love raspberries. And so we dedicated, you know, 1/6 of our garden to raspberries. And we're picking right now, it's kind of prime raspberry season for us here in Utah. And we are picking about 1 gallon of berries every 3 days. And that will continue hopefully for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'll be done. You can already see that the plants are starting to show some signs of stress. There's blackberries right here. The raspberries have kind of just taken over everything, but doing well. And then right here in this next bed, this was mostly potatoes, and you can see that there's still potatoes in there. The tops are dying off. We've started harvesting from this bed. This is the last of the white potatoes that we have. They actually go to about right here. And we'll be pulling the rest of these out. Down there at the end, we already started to harvest, but we'll pull the rest of these out probably this weekend and get those curing so that we can get them in storage for the winter. We did try some sweet potatoes over here, but we've got this tree. And so they're just not thriving. There's a squash plant here too. This is a spaghetti squash that actually is doing okay. There's 4 squash on there, but the sweet potatoes are closer here to the fence. They didn't thrive, so I don't think we'll do sweet potatoes here again. We've got a bunch more sweet potatoes you'll see here in a minute, but these plants don't look all that great, and so I don't know what our harvest is going to be like there. We do have some mint, and this is in a raised bed, and then we also have some chives back here as well that we kind of just eat off of all year long. But the mint's kind of burning out. And by the way, so that everybody knows, this is in a container, and it's contained with the raised bed so that it won't spread to the rest of the garden. This is maybe another shot here of the potatoes. And again, they're dying off, wearing down. We'll be digging these up pretty soon. We were disappointed with our beans this year. We really struggled with beans. The snails were just really bad this season, and so we had a hard time getting beans to germinate. These were like, this is like a 3rd planting in this area before we finally got them to take. And you can see we're getting a few, but we're only getting about, you know, a handful every couple of days. So we have enough to eat, but we didn't have enough to preserve this year. So we're gonna have to do something different to control the snails a little bit better next year, because they seem to favor those beans for some reason. Our cucumbers, on the other hand, are doing amazing. We are picking 3 or 4 every other day from this trellis, and so they're doing really nice. I'm happy with them. And then over here is our peppers. And peppers are doing okay this year. Not our best year for peppers for sure. If you look in there, you can see they're doing well. We've got about 3 to 4 weeks before our last frost, and so we'll get some solid development there, but not our best year for peppers. Not bad though either. We've been eating, they're starting to ripen, and so for the last couple of weeks we've been eating 1 or 2 a week. But we're not going to have a ton to preserve this year. We do have along this fence, again, this shows our obsession with raspberries. Along this fence we also have some more raspberries, and you can see they are rocking this year. We're having a really good raspberry year. I think we'll see. Last year was our best year ever, but this year might beat it. We'll see. And then over here, more popcorn. So we just buy our sweet corn from the farmer's market, and we grow popcorn in hill using the hill method. And so this is a different variety. This one's called Yellow Holus. All right, and then here is our tomatoes. So we use the Florida weed method to trellis our tomatoes. So I'll kind of do a little cutaway here so that you can see. Our tomatoes are doing pretty well this year. Not our best tomato year, but pretty decent. We tried a new variety this year. I did a video on it earlier. This is called San Marzano. It's a Roma tomato, and we have loved these. Brand new for us this year, and have really enjoyed them. They're just a great tomato for salsas and sauces, and just super good. So we like those. We've also got, what have we got? We've got some early girls here. We've got some celebrities back here. And then I'll take you over and show you the others as well. So this is maybe a little bit better view of the Florida weave method. You just have, we've got 4 stakes, and then you just run twine in between, and that supports them as they grow. And we've got over here, these end ones are a regular Brandywine tomato, and then over here in these cages we have pink Brandywines. So they are all doing well. We're hoping to get enough here to ripen in the next 2 or 3 weeks before our frost comes, to hopefully get another 2 or 3 batches of tomatoes canned. So anyways, decent year with the tomatoes. All right, this bed is covered in fabric row cover because it is relatively recently planted. We wanted to keep the pests out and kind of help things along here. So these will be our winter cold frames. So we've got carrots planted here, then spinach, which is just recently planted there, and then way in the back we've got lettuce growing. So I'll kind of do some cutaways here so that you can see what's happening underneath there, but that is our fall cold frame beds. We'll go there. And then last but not least is our sweet potato patch, which this is the most sweet potatoes we've ever done. This is only our 3rd year growing sweet potatoes, but we love them. And so we really went crazy this year and planted a lot more. We did about 25 starts, and I'm really happy with how they're looking. Looking super good. We'll hopefully get these harvested. Again, our first frost is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks away right now, and so we'll kind of see, but we'll harvest them right around the time that frost comes. We'll leave them in as long as we can. And then we've got our zucchini plant, which there's actually 2 plants there, not just one, but doing well, and we get a couple every other day. We're kind of getting tired of zucchini, which I know a lot of people do this time of year. So, all right, a few flowers. This is a new addition to our garden this year as well. We added this fence in, kind of just to give it a little separation, a little quaintness. And then we got our new logo sign, which ended up fading in the sunlight. Another thing that we did this year is we have this wall, and this is the north side of this wall, and so we have a hard time getting things to grow here. Most food crops don't grow. We can get some herbs and a few things occasionally, but this year we tried 4 o'clocks along here, and we're really happy with them. And the nice thing is because they're pretty much in the shade most of the day, they bloom all day long, which is unusual for 4 o'clocks. So we were happy with that. One other thing that I guess I should show you is our almond tree. You can see they're starting to crack open. We're starting to get almonds. They'll be ready to harvest here in just a little bit. Okay guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. Hopefully that was not too chaotic. I haven't really done garden tours before, and so hopefully you enjoyed that and it gave you kind of a look as to what we have growing this time of the year. Like I say, we're kind of burning out, wearing down. The season is coming to an end. It's mid-September right now. We are 2 to 4 weeks away from our first frost. I'm hoping 4 weeks this year. We'll see. But we're hoping to get as many tomatoes as we can harvested, and so the longer we go without frost, the better that way. But it's been a good year, decent year. I not maybe quite as good as we'd hoped. I had a back injury in July, and so I spent most of July and early August not being able to do a lot in the garden. So given the fact that it's still looking pretty good after that, I'm pretty happy with it overall. So good year for 2024. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this garden tour. Let me know what you thought. We'll talk to you later. Happy gardening. Oh, hey, make sure you get subscribed to my channel while you're here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Happy gardening, guys.